Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Today at the Races. Ron Nicoletti along with Ashley Mayu. Do not touch your dial. There's no palm trees behind us. They brought us up here to help out on Preakness weekend. So my sidekick here, we followed each up here. We're about to give you some, I hope, some useful information.
Yeah, and I think we brought some of the Florida weather. We'll get to that in a minute, but it's going to be balmy here, and you can see sunshine so far.
And the races have really turned out to be spectacular over the weekend. Let's take a look first at the Black Eyed Susan, see what's happening in that race. You'll see right there, yeah, just the day, Susan Stakes Day, we got all this good stuff going on.
Yeah, 6 stakes races in total, over 1 million in purses. We mentioned the Black Eyed Susan being today's feature. Huge field, a really big field's been assembled, and I know we both like some prices in there, so can't ask for a better day of racing.
Absolutely great, a betting race, that race. And now let's check out what we got going on tomorrow. Of course, it's 147 Preakness Day, and there you see what's going on. What a day of racing.
14 races in total. We end with Arabians, but we have all these stakes races in between, highlighted by the 147th Preakness with a great field. The horses have been schooling here all week. It'll be interesting to chat more about that tomorrow, since I think we're going to have differing opinions.
You mentioned that Arabian race. I pick the winner in that race every year. It's 2 to 5 usually, but I usually get that, so I have a lot of fun doing it. We don't get to do that much in South Florida. So with that said, let's check out what's going on today as far as the track and weather conditions are concerned. And it's just a beautiful, we're going to say, balmy day here in Pimlico.
Yeah, sunny, and I know yesterday we were off the turf, but today we're on the turf, a fast main track, a firm turf course, and another day with 14 races on tap. You can see right now about 78 degrees, but that temperature is going to climb throughout the day.
Yeah, it's supposed to be about 90 degrees in a similar situation tomorrow. So if you're coming out to join us, make sure you dress appropriately and get some water. Lots of water. And there's water all over this place. That's what they said. They're going to have water for everyone. So come on out and enjoy all the pomp and circumstances. So I think that's all the early stuff that we got to go. We can get into the races today. And no better place to start the races in the first race. So that's what we'll do. It's 5 furlongs on the turf, an allowance optional. This is an allowance for 3-year-olds and upward. Did have a couple of scratches in here earlier of the day with the number 2 and the number 3 horse in here. We got our exact flip-flop here. You went with the number 9, Detroit City.
It was between 2 horses here. I went with the Jack Sisterson trainee, who hasn't been seen since Breeders' Cup weekend at Delmar, and he was the pace setter in the Qatar Gold Mile, ended up finishing 8th. But I thought the Indian Summer 2 back, only going 5.5, was a good performance. You kind of see Averly Jane, Coffee Maker, some nice horses in there. So for me, I think this one on the cutback's intriguing, assuming he can run off that 6-month-plus layoff.
Yeah, Louis Sayers in the saddle today. I did go with the number 7 horse in here, Never Satisfied, who moves to the Kent Sweezy barn, into the Damon Dillo DeVico barn, and after running second, was beaten a length. We know this race from down in South Florida. That was 40 optional claimers at Gulfstream. The barn, 35% with new additions to their shed row. They had blinkers. They also do good with first-time blinkers, about 35 cents. So I thought these were the logical 2 in the race.
Yeah, you would pick the Gulfstream Park horse on top in here. You mentioned now joins the barn of Damon Dilla DeVico, who does quite well with these new acquisitions. Blinkers on, and I thought last time out it was a compact field sprinting on the turf, but this horse was dead last early on, rallied late under Miguel Vasquez, and Always Gambling was a pretty nice winner that day, so I'm really curious to see this one on the Pimlico turf course.
Well, we're going to go to race number 2 this afternoon. This one is a 6 furlong maiden claimer. These are fillies and mares, 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, 40 down to 32,000 in here. And we did have a few scratches in this race with the number 4, 7, and 8, and first-time Lasix on the number 1. So was everybody only got my early pick 5 ticket in here. And I did go with Reagan Run. It was 8 to 5 in the morning line. And now with those scratches, I feel a little better. Also used Foul Ball. In race number 3, I went 3 deep in there with the 4, King Vega as my top pick, the British bred. In race number 4 this afternoon, I think the race goes through the 3 Rusty's G55, but I used Uncle Irish on the ticket along with the 2 horse in there. And then in race number 5, I like what I see, and I like what I see with that horse. Put that one right on top. Also from Gulfstream Park. So you've seen that theory I got going on here. And you're going to end it with 3 in race number 6 with another woman, RB Star, and awfully foxy in that race. So that is my ticket. $54. I brought up a lot of extra money here, and I'm going to be betting that a little later.
You dug up your coffee cans to get that extra money, right?
Getting back to this race, as I said, 6 furlongs for maiden claimers, fillies and mares, 3, 4, and 5. The 1 Run, Reagan Run. What a year Brittany Russell is having. First-time starter. She's good with her debut maiden cleaners. claimers, excuse me. She's got Heavy and Toledo in the saddle.
Yeah, the stats suggest this filly's ready to roll. She has a slew of workouts at Laurel Park, and some of them on the flashy side. Most recently out of the gate in 48-3. And you talked about Brittany. Also, this was an $87,000 purchase last year as a 2-year-old. It's a half to the graded stakes placed carrier who did well in some really nice graded stakes. And the one thing I'll note here, it might not be in your program, first-time Lasix for this horse.
The number 2, St. Eris Girl, another first-time starter. It's a daughter of Cupid, debuting for Ron Marquette. You get Tyler Gaffleone. The concern I had about this horse, the barn is only 9% with first-time starters.
Yeah, not the strongest number. It does bump up, though, when you look at debuting at the maiden claiming level, 15% from a sample size of 20. Most recent work down in Oaklawn Park was Speedy. Another pretty pricey purchase in this field, $100,000. And we've seen some of these offspring of Cupid do quite well down in South Florida. And this is a daughter of Cupid.
And the number 5, Foul Balls, is a daughter of Twirling Candy, debuting for Graham. Graham is just going great guns here. Going into, when I looked at last, he's 3 for 4 at the meeting, gets Lasix, getting further Lynch.
I think for this one, it might be like a introductory to the races and maybe go longer from here, just seeing the workouts compared to the other horses. Has some of those 5 furlong drills here at Fair Hill. Has some nice ones as well. I like some of those dirt workouts here. For me, I use this one underneath.
The third race today, a mile and a 16th on the turf. These are allowance, 3-year-olds and upward. We did have some early scratches in here of the 2, the 11, and the number 12 horse. And I heard, I didn't rock them down, but I heard all the main track onlys are out as the rest of the card. But we'll be, they'll be updating with all the scratches and changes you need here. I did go with you. Well, let's start with you. You went with Never Explain, returns from a serious layoff to say today for Shug McGee.
At least it's Shug, though. That's the key angle.
Yeah.
Shug just does so well with these horses coming off extended layoffs. And for this one, last time out, finished 5th, beaten by a length at Belmont. I think it's a pretty good race when you see the race flow panned out. I know this one was favored, but did have to go pretty 6-7 wide at one point in the race, so pretty far out there. Obviously had some hopes with the high purchase price. And Flavian Pratt, man, wherever he goes, he's in the winner's circle, so I couldn't leave him off.
Yeah, he's been on fire. I did go with the number 10. We got our exact flip-flop again. This one is the number 4. Excuse me, the British-bred King Vega. Turn it back to 8.5 furlongs. Start the pace. Sort of flattened out in that race to finish 4th in its North American debut for allowance runners. This is Graham Motion's game. Second off the 180-day plus layoff. He's 27%. You get Louis Sayers in the saddle today. And I am on the Graham Motion bandwagon.
You mentioned second off the layoff. I even think just second start in North America. It's even a stronger thing in terms of it takes a little bit more skill, and Graham does well with these horses. The race last time out, the Buyer would fit this field really well, going a mile and an 1/8 at Keeneland. Louis Sayas stays aboard. There's a lot to like about this one, top to bottom.
And what about the number 5 horse in here, the Honorable One?
Went for a price here for Todd Beatty. This one was 3rd last time out, beaten by a length. Big question here will be turf. You see a slew of dirt races, and that's it. Last time out, finished a late closing 3rd, beaten by a length. But pedigree was interesting here as well. Half to the Grade 1 winner at Tiswell, who won the Cotillion back in the day, was second behind late in the Alabama. So I think there's some potential here to see how this one does on the grass.
Yeah, get a little bit of a price there with those couple of favorites that we've already picked. Let's flip the page. Go to race number 4, 1 mile and 1/16th, an allowance optional claimer, 3-year-olds, 62,500. We're clear here, no scratches or jockey changes to let you know about in here. And you went with the number 2 horse in here, and there's Netagar, who's stretching out after rallying to finish 2nd.
I think it could be a big day for Damon Dilla DeVico, because this is a horse, when you go back to those last 2 or 3 replays, this horse gets himself into trouble. So I think if he can overcome himself, he's his own worst enemy. If he can do that, I think he's got a huge shot. Last time going a mile over the good going at Laurel Park, he was last briefly, and then I saw him. He tugged at his rider. The rider looked like he was on jet skis for a bit, kind of just shuffled all over the place. This horse pulled, but sometimes when horses do that, they just kind of putter out and don't have anything left. He still was moving late to finish 2nd, beaten by a length and a quarter. 2 starts back, I mean, there was an issue in a turn. Another horse, a competitor, came up and kind of bumped him around, and then he tipped wide. So I think this horse with a cleaner trip has a huge shot.
Well, the number 3 horse in here, Rusty's G55, is stepping up for Claudio Gonzalez. All the years I've come up to Maryland, I've learned if you see Claudio Gonzalez, pay attention. Stepping up after back-to-back claiming wins against Cheaper at the distance. Crosstown at Laurel. Apprentice Jerry Barboza is in the saddle, going for the hat trick. So this kid knows how to handle this horse.
And trying to go for that 3 in a row, and has been favored in those last 2 efforts. And the great thing to see about this horse is claimed for $16,000, and look at the price tag today, $62.50. I mean, there's a lot of money on the line, and really the way he wins, I think he gets a good trip because he sits just off the pace. He doesn't let the pace explode in front of him. He's always really in touch with the field.
And the number one horse who we both had some interest, we both have in second, actually. Uncle Irish is debuting locally after coming within that scant nose of winning versus those $62,000, $500 optional claimers, going 8.5 furlongs at Laurel. Jamie Ness, Jamie Rodriguez in the saddle.
Yeah, Jamie Ness had 2 wins yesterday from 3 starts. Horse is a little inconsistent. I do like this horse at 1.16 miles, even though still looking for the first win at the distance, but last time out was just denied. And, coming into this race has a flashy work, 46-4. I think that's one of the fastest works on the card today.
So we got 1, 2, 3, 7 in not that exact order, but we're thinking alike so far. So you are in a little bit of trouble in here. Race number 5, 5 furlongs on the turf. Allowance optional claiming 3-year-olds and up. The optional claiming price of $35,000. Nice field here, as I mentioned. The main track onlys are going to come out this afternoon. I don't see any rain anywhere around this, so we'll see how it is. Let's go with your horse on top here. You got the number 7 horse in here, and that's Comedy Town.
I love this. Our top picks we don't have covered on either side, and then we have the same horses. For Comedy Town, finished 5th last time out, back in the fall at Presque Isle Downs, obviously being on a synthetic surface. Prior to that, had a nice win up at Woodbine. Just wanted to sneak back maybe 4 starts back. That's the race I'm keen in on. I know he was the pace setter, but he finished 3rd, beaten by 2 behind a pretty nice horse by the name of Riptide Rock. And I think when this horse spent time in Canada, he faced pretty admirable foes for that level. Like Trombetta does well off the layoff.
I did go with the number 10 horse in here, and that is like what I see. Cuts back to 5 furlongs. Now, you go back, this horse set the pace, faded, but that's going around 2 turns at Gulfstream Park, 7.5 furlongs for Kelly Breen. Sharp wire-to-wire winner at the distance at Gulfstream in December, and that's what I'm keying off this afternoon. I don't know what he is on the morning line. Is he
6-1.
6-1 on the morning line. I think there's a horse you can take a second look at. A lot of people think 7.5 furlongs is a sprint at Gulfstream, which it is not. So I like to turn back for this horse, and we both have the number 8. Coop tries hard. He was going back to the grass today.
Going back to the grass, has had a couple months off to regroup. Jane Sabelli down at Gulfstream and stabled at Palm Meadows this past winter. A winner last time out in a pretty good race, but for me, that race 2 back. They've tried to get this horse on the turf again, and the races have been on the Tapeta, but the race 2 back at the $35,000. Sayef's a pretty nice horse that this one finished second to, and if you look at those races, a different sort of run style. They went pretty fast 2 starts back. This horse chased and was just simply second best, and then last time out rallied from further back.
A horse that I find very interesting here, I'm glad you used this one on your ticket, 8-1 on the morning line, is the number 5, Love You Much. This one was Stakes Place, sprinting on the Pimlico turf. Now, it was back in 2020, but he's a 6-time turf rider, going to try and rekindle that status, horse for course status, we'll say. The first start since finishing 3rd in that Maryland Million turf sprint was 23-1. This horse loves to run at this distance.
Loves the distance, and one thing you know for sure, going to be rallying from off the pace, so the hotter the pace, the better for this one. Loves Pimlico as well, 3 for 5 in the money with that win. So I have highlighted that last race. I think it's pretty good. Grateful Bread, the winner, going to race here tomorrow at Pimlico. And Horacio Caramanos, just one to really watch, especially on the grass.
Yeah, he does very well on the grass. Going to race number 6 this afternoon, which is a 6 furlong sprint. Allowance for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upward. Scratch the number 7 horse in here, Belladora. And I did go with the number 2, and so did you. So take it over. It's another woman going from Billy Mott to Brittany Russell.
And have blinkers off today. She raced with blinkers in 3 of her 4 starts. And when you look at that maiden win, maybe that's what they saw. She didn't have blinkers on, and she was able to win on the front end. But I think she's interesting to note. She started her career down at Gulfstream Park. And in that debut, she was second. She was beaten by 2.5. Pretty big horse. Past the Champagne was the winner, so it was nice to see her kind of hold her own. Tabor Hall, an okay horse as well, 2 starts back. So Brittany does tremendous work with these new acquisitions, kind of getting closer and closer to 40%, which is just unheard of.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I had a little trouble with my microphone there. It seems slipping off my hand. I guess these people got skinnier heads than I do up here in Maryland. I did go to the inside with my second pick in Sarby Star. Tries first level allowance runners after returning from about an 11-month layoff. Finished 4th. It was against 62,500 optional claimants going 6th. That was in the mud at Laurel. Claudio Gonzalez, apprentice Jerry and Barboza. Inside post today. I think this horse might be a little bit of a speed play.
And we saw that here at Pimlico when we were racing in the summer, and fared really well to break the maiden over the mud. Last time out, I think it was an okay performance. Probably needed a race coming off that extended layoff. And looking at the workouts, I like that this horse had that one race, had one more workout, and just coming to the race off of that.
And the number 5 horse in here, Awfully Foxy, is debuting locally after a solid sprint campaign against similar quality at Laurel. For who?
Damon Delodovico. I think we're going to say this a lot today and hopefully get him in the winner's circle, but awfully foxy. You mentioned it, had a really great sprint campaign. Last time out, stretched to a mile on the mud and ran very well for going a mile, but I think the key here is cutting back now. I always love seeing that move from trainers.
Well, let's take a short break. I'll fix my microphone, and when we come back, we'll have a race number 7. From the sweat. How we doing?
Deserves a safe and loving environment. This unique program ensures retired horses are provided a suitable, healthy, and loving home for life after their racing careers are over, and has adopted out more than 400 horses in Canada, has pioneered thoroughbred horse shows, and has been a leader in developing retirement programs throughout North America. The Stronach family is committed to the sport of thoroughbred racing and the grace, spirit, and generosity of the horse.
Welcome back, Ron and Ashley. That's right, we're up here from Florida trying to give these fantastic folks a little hand and try and give you some winners this afternoon. And we're going to the turf for race number 7, 1 mile and 1/16 allowance, optional claimer, 3-year-olds and up. The optional claiming price is $35,000. Did have some scratches in here of the 2, 3, and the 10. And as I mentioned, the main track onlys are going to come out this afternoon. And you went with the number 11 horse in here, Healing, who's debuting locally for Mr. Mike Baker.
Debuting locally, but at least well-traveled. This horse has been all over the place, has racked up 3 wins in a row now at 3 different courses, Gulfstream, Fairgrounds, and Keeneland. These horses, to extend that streak is really tough. I usually don't pick these horses on top for that reason, but I like the trips he's gotten. He usually is kind of maybe rallying from the back or at least mid-pack, and that's what we saw in that race last time out, Keeneland. I think he beat some nice horses, Red Hornet, and we'll see if he can extend his streak. And I also like that Tyler Gaffleon has experience aboard him.
Yeah, well, we're going for 2 in a row with him. I saw a lot of, speed in here, and I thought, well, I didn't see a lot of speed, really. I saw U.S. Constitution makes his local return for Mike Trombetta, and looks to me like the controlling speed against a field that's stocked with stalk closer types. 2 for 3 on the turf, including at this 8.5 furlong or a mile in the 16th distance. So I think U.S. Constitution in here sits the trip this afternoon behind the speed, and I think that if he doesn't get the distance, it looks like Healing's going to pick up the pieces.
I agree. You mentioned U.S. Constitution, ridden Javier Castellano in the irons. Won those 2 races in a row, one at Monmouth Park and then Laurel over the yielding going. And, he can win on the front end. He can sit just off the pace. So I think he's tactical that if for some reason he's getting pressured, maybe they just have him right off the pace setter.
Well, what about the number 9 horse in here, Ballarox, who's in for the $35,000 tag today?
Has back class. I mean, he's made over $800,000 on the track, but he is in for $35,000. Last time out, didn't fare too well at Belmont, but 2 starts back, was able to get a nice win at Colonial by a length and a quarter. He's inconsistent in his form, but I mentioned he has back class. He is a 9-year-old, and Jeffrey Engelhart does well with these horses coming off that extended layoff.
Yeah, Louis Saez in the saddle today, so big class relief in there. Or race number 8. Today's stakes action time, 1 mile and 1/8, fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. It is the $150,000 Alad DuPont Distaff Turf Grade 3 event, and you went with the number 1 Exotic West in here, the only multiple winner in the field at this 9 furlong distance.
Yeah, and this one's had a great year so far, 2 in a row. Obviously 3 starts back in that stakes race at Aqueduct. Didn't fare too well, was going to, put that out. This horse basically has 3 in a row, had problems in that race. So a very consistent type. I think this horse is tactical, does have the inside draw today, but should get a good position just off the pace, and there should be some pace in here.
Yeah, the number 1 horse in here, losing my microphone again, this just does not fit. Sorry, folks. Exotic West, the only multiple winner at 9 furlongs, as I mentioned. I did go with Frost Point, who should move forward in the second start at 9 furlongs after stalking the pace, finishing 3rd behind aforementioned Exotic West in the top flight, Invitational at Aqueduct. Bill Mott, you mentioned Red Hot Jock Flavin Pratt will be in the saddle.
They tried something different with Frost Point last time out, was just stalking the pace in second, I should say, was right off the pace setter and typically rallies from further back, and maybe the thought process was stretching out to a mile and an eighth. Did they not see a ton of pace and decided to be closer? But I think this one, is going to be a little further back today like we've seen from her in the past.
The number 2 in horse in here, the used row in second, you have it, a beautifully bred daughter, into Vanishing actually, beautifully bred daughter of Into Mischief, who was second to Superstar Latrusker in the mile in the 16th grade, 3 Royal Delta of Gulfstream, stretches out for Jonathan Thomas. Louis Sy is in the saddle today.
She's faced nice horses in her other race, but she faced a monster in the Royal Delta. We remember watching Latruska was just much the best. And then last time out, went to Keeneland and, ran her race and ran well. I think she's intriguing. Jonathan Thomas, good work all the way around. And Louis Sias was aboard last time and aboard again today.
Well, let's go to race number 9 this afternoon, and this one is the 1 mile on the turf, 3-year-olds. It is the $100,000, the Hilltop, and we got a ticket here for Naomi put this ticket together, and very affordable, just $8 in here. So see if we can get this ticket done here.
And looking at the ticket, she uses 4 horses in the opener. She does use Pizza Bianca, the heavy favorite in here, but also will use the number 6, Diamond Hands, the 7, Murph, who opted for this spot rather than a race tomorrow at Pimlico, and the 8, Vergara for Graham Motion. Race 10, 2 horses. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Naomi and I chatted earlier. There's a big scratch in here of the number 2, Under the Stars. So Happy Soul, the 6 for Wesley Ward, figures to be a favorite. But Naomi's going to try to beat that one with the number 3, Lady Scarlet for Mike Maker. And then race 11, just too deep in the very one. We'll use the number 2, Honey Pants, and the number 3, Princess Kokichin.
Yeah, just good ticket and very affordable, $8. If you wanted to add another horse, it would go up to $16. So very good. Back here, the big horse today is Pizza Bianca, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf winner, cuts back to the mile, finished second to Consumer Spending in the mile in the 16, $100,000 Memories of Silver. A lot of people looked at that. That horse should have won that race. Second off the bench, it's Christophe Clement, Jose Ortiz atop, strictly the one to beat in here.
4 starts, over 650,000 in purse earnings. Really hasn't done anything wrong. A Bobby Flay homebred that they've had a really fun ride with this one. Get to win the Breeders' Cup, that says a lot.
Well, the number 8 horse in here we both have in second, Vergara, who won the Teppan Stakes at Aqueduct in November. Let's go back and look. It's a couple of starts back, but it was a pretty good performance, and that was the number 8 that day, Vergara. So let's check that out. There you see, circled up there, and the horse is running very well. And I just thought this was a really nice performance by this horse.
Yeah, and this horse had a good position early on. It was a decently sized field at Aqueduct and just was able to just be in touch with those pace setters throughout. And you can see her on the replay. Louis Sias was aboard for this victory, the only time she ever rode her, and really, gets her to go on these last couple jumps to the wire so she can win. She was a price that day, 6-1. Kind of looking at this group, I think you might get just some value on her if she can beat Pizza Bianca.
Yeah, Graham Motion's going to add Lasix today, and you got Louis Sias handling that surface switch this afternoon. So back to where this horse runs well, as you saw on that video. And then the number 3 horse I have some interest in there, Hail to, who's a full sister to $2.6 million Ernest Sadler's Joy, debut for Tom Albertrani, who of course ran Sadler's Joy, gets Lasix, failed to fire. That was in the $100,000 Sanibel Island at Gulfstream. Tyler Gaffleone, this is a beautifully bred 3-year-old. I'm looking for that little bit of a price this afternoon. And
you mentioned last time out it failed to fire, but also had some trouble in there. Was 27-1 in that event. My Philly Twirl was the winner of the race, but 2 back, a very nice effort at Tampa. And sometimes we talk about those races, they're sneaky good, and you have to see where these horses move from there.
Who else you got on the ticket? That the number 6 horse in here, and that is Diamond Hands.
Diamond Hands broke the maiden last time out in a front end score, took them gate to wire, 2 starts back, was actually kind of moved up because of disqualification of Haughty. All those races were in New York. Now facing winners for the first time, a Tall Task, also racing off that layoff. But I think if anyone's going to be able to get this horse to have a good performance off that long layoff, it is Christophe Clement.
In race number 10 today is one of my favorite races up here for 3-year-old fillies. Is $100,000, the Miss Preakness Grade 3 event. And Ashley, I know you put a ticket together.
I did put a ticket together. $27 is the cost. I'll just use 2 runners in here. I mentioned earlier the number 2, Under the Stars, is scratched. So I do use the 3 and the 6. The 6, Happy Soul, as my top selection. Race 11, 3 runners in here. I'll use the 2, 10, and 11. And race 12 is where I think things get a bit interesting. This is one of my favorite races every year. The Pimlico Special at 1 mile and 3/16. I'll use the 1, 3, and the 10. And the 10 I think is sneaky. 12-1 on the morning line. That's Mischief Afoot for Jimmy Toner. Last time out was second, beaten by 2 lengths behind some really nice horses. And then to wrap things up, the feature event of the day, the Grade 2 Black Eyed Susan. I'll use 3 runners in total, the 5, 6, and the 10. The 10, Adair Manor, my top pick. But I think the number 5 is sneaky and should offer value.
Yeah, get some value there in race number 13, $27 for you. Interesting to see if you put Lady Scarlet or Happy Soul on top.
I had to go with Happy Soul
Me
on
too.
top. I think the scratch, even with the horse at number 2 under stars in here, I still picked Happy Soul on top. Disappointed last time out in the Ashland. That was going a mile and a 16th, though, at Keeneland. And you look at those races before that, some pretty big and kind of gritty wins for this one, just opening up on the field. So it's the cutback, sprinting, Wesley Ward. I think that says it all.
Yeah, multiple stakes winning sprinter on the dirt, as you mentioned, for Johnny Velasquez in the saddle. And in addition, working very sharply for this performance today. Lady Scarlet is turning back today to 3/4 of a mile. She lost all chance. You put a line through that last race when she stumbled badly. That was an 8.5 furlong Grade 2. Santa Anita Oaks, former Baffert, former Tim Yakin, now in Sean McCarthy's barn. 22%. He's solid. And I think this horse just, will put a line through, and then this horse's past performance certainly fit in the spot.
Yeah, Lady Scarlet ran really well at Oakland, then she went to Aqueduct, and you mentioned last time out went 7/8 in the Beaumont, was the pace setter and couldn't go that far, so she cuts back. Mike Maker, Irad Ortiz, big connections, and then, kind of look at them last year. They did have a win here at a decent price.
Number 8, Gimmick, is who I use also, is making stakes return for Steve Asmussen after drawing clear to defeat those 100 optional claimers at Oaklawn. Half-sister to multiple Grade 1 stakes place and Grade 2 Vosberg winner following C. Tyler Gaffleone in the saddle. I like the breeding. Of course, the connections, they win all the time. I thought maybe this horse would have a little bit of shot. You had a little further down on your ticket.
A little further down, I started looking at again at Steve Asmussen, and this horse is going to offer value, and that kind of scares me a little bit. If anyone's going to beat me, it could be this horse. And I definitely think when you look at the 2 races this year, certainly needed a race after that sorority back in September. Didn't fire in that next out start, but last time out was able to take them gate to wire.
And as you mentioned, Under the Stars is scratched also on the number 7 in race number 10 this afternoon. So a Happy Soul, Lady Scarlet, I think those are the 2 you'd be pretty comfortable with. Anybody else you want to talk about? What about Saucy Lady T?
For Saucy Lady T, this one's joining the barn of Grand Motion, was trained by James Chapman before that. Big races in terms of when you start to look at who she's faced. Echo Zulu being the main one, Pretty Birdie, Gerrymander. A lot of these horses were next out winners. So we're talking about a horse that in the last 4 starts, all graded stakes competition, 2 of them Grade 1s. So I think this horse is obviously one to use in here, going now to a Grade 3.
Now, let's go to race number 11 this afternoon. Now, do you say the very one? I always hated that. I say the very one. 5 furlongs on the turf. Fillies and Mares, 3-year-olds and up, $100,000. I know that's the correct one. The always makes me nuts.
Sounds like you normally talk.
We both went with Honey Pants on top of our ticket.
Was a winner last time out at Gulfstream Park, a dominant winner, had a career best number. I mean, this is a horse that 2 starts back, I thought, looked like this horse was rallying late, didn't get the job done, and then to have that performance, I think getting back on the turf was a big part of that effort, and has some stakes competition in the past, has fared well, has traveled. Christophe Clement, I've said it once today, they're really hard to ignore in these races.
Yeah, they team up. They're really fantastic. That's Honey Pants. And then you went with the number 10 horse, and you Paint Them Blues Away. And I think we got a video of the start and then the stretch of this horse. That's number 10, Paint Them Blues Away.
And this is an interesting race. This was at Tampa last time out in the Lightning City. And when you kind of look at this horse's performances, I mean, this horse is sharp out of the gate, and we see that. Just lightning quick, is able to get towards the front in here. And with these turf sprints, when you get horses like this, that they get on the lead, they're dangerous. Right now on the outside of the number 1, Senora Roma, and just is able to kind of clear from here and draw clear. So I think in these sprints, it's really something to note.
Yeah, so that is Paint Them Blues Away, and I have this one on a ticket. Winner of 9 of 15 career races, debuts locally. Really good performance. Jane Sibeli going to team up with Fergal Lynch. I did use the number 1 horse, and here you have a little further down in the ticket, Phantom Vision, and I'll tell you why. Cutting back to 5 furlongs, broke from the far outside last time out, post 13, got parked wide throughout the race. That was going 5.5 furlongs in the Giant Causeway on the good Keeneland turf. It's Mike Maker, Flavian Pratt, daughter of Declaration of War, and when I see War Front, I give these horses a second look, and was really parked out wide last time out.
This horse has experience here at Pimlico, but interestingly enough, in the Hilltop, going a mile. And this horse had some sprints, had a nice route race before going into there, and now has just kind of become that one-turn specialist. 2 in a row at Gulfstream Park. Both were rained off, though, and moved to the Tapeta, and actually beat Honey Pants in one of those races. Then last time out, just not the sort of traffic kind of set up for her. She was further back than normal, and she was a price in there, and I just think the trip didn't suit her well.
And what about the number 11 horse in here, Spun Glass?
Spun Glass. I thought this horse was intriguing just based on the last couple of efforts. The last 3 particularly have been good. They were back in the fall, so this horse is coming off that layoff, but Mike Trombetta does well with this work. And last time out, finished 3rd, kind of almost split that field of 7. I'm just wondering, we talked about some horses rallying from off the pace to where inside there's going to be speed, so I'm just hoping this runner can maybe get a good position early on and make a late move.
That is race number 11, the very one, $150,000. Race number 3, very important for handicappers because it's the same distance as the Preakness Stakes tomorrow, 1 mile and 3/16, 3-year-olds and up. It is the $300,000, the Grade 3, the Pimlico special, and you went with the number 1 horse in here, Vindictive, 1 of 2 from Todd Pletcher.
1 of 2 from Todd Pletcher, and he's got the 1 and the 3 in here. Last time out was a pretty nice winner as expected at Aqueduct after having a couple months off, and you look in here at this replay. It's a pretty big effort when you kind of look at it from a whole. It was not a big field. It was able to get the job done in here. For me, kind of looking at the trip, this horse just gets his best stride late. That's going a mile and an 1/8. Now thinking today a mile and 3/16. I think he's just going to love the added ground. I think we could see a big repeat performance from him again.
Yeah, I think he's going to run exceptionally well in there. I did go with a horse that I had some interest in, and that is the number 6, Capo Costello, who's stretching out to this Preakness distance of a mile, 3/16. Rallied. I thought it was a perfect setup to finish 2nd. That was in the 9-furlong Grade 3 Go Sapper at Gulfstream Park. Of course, Fausto Gutierrez, the trainer of Latruska, Flavian Pratt. This is a winner of 3 or 4 races at this type of distance, we'll say, down in other countries. So I just think Capo Costello has a really good shot this afternoon. I don't know what he's on the line, but I think you got to go back and look at a horse like this. Let's see, he is 8-1 on the board with Flavian Pratt. I don't think you're getting 8-1.
And he's won a bunch of local Group 1 events in Panama. They're recognized as Group 1s there. Last time out was 2nd in the Go Zapper behind Fearless, and Fearless was able to rebound after his prior effort and was just a runaway winner. Olympiad ended up winning that race on January 15th, so he's been in deep waters, and I think today he's only going to continue to get better, and Fausto Gutierrez does well with these horses coming off 6 or 8 weeks of rest.
Let's go to race number 13. It is the big one, the Grade 2 Black-Eyed Susan, $250,000, 1 mile, 1/8 for filly 3-year-olds in here, and no scratches or jockey changes. And boy, Adade Mana now in the Sean McCarthy barn looks awful tough. We got a video for this horse.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting replay to watch for Adair Manor. We both use this one on top, and a lot has to do with this performance we're going to see here in the Santa Anita Oaks, a Grade 2 event. In terms of position for this horse, I mean, she gets a pretty good position in this race early on under Johnny V. Going to ride her again today. You kind of see that break, and now you kind of turned to the stretch run, and she's splitting horses in the middle here, and she's still trying to grind. She's coming from a mile race to a mile and a 16th, so I like that she's still trying to keep on the stretch, and she's only going to miss by a little bit to Desert Dawn. And you just kind of look at the numbers. I mean, she looks extremely tough today.
The number 6, Luna Bell, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention this horse, the darling of Maryland, debuts at the distance, notched her 5th consecutive victory when she won the 8.5 furlong Weber City. A miss, she'll be tested for class, but when she makes her graded stakes debut, she's stepping it up today.
You mentioned she is like the belle of Maryland, a Maryland bred trained by Hammy Smith. Can this horse extend that streak? I don't know, but it's been interesting to see her, watch her progress, because when you look at those races, she's won from anywhere recently from 6 furlongs to a mile and a 16th, now going to stretch out to a mile and an 1/8, but she's really run late, and I thought last time out, the early fractions in the Weber City Miss, they were not hot at all, and she still was much the best late.
The number 7 horse I have some interest in, a little further down, Distinctly Possible. $670,000 Daughter of Curlin steps up for Chad Brown, followed her 2nd place finish, while a maiden in the Grade 1 out Sabatis with a maiden score going a mile into 16th at Keeneland.
Juju's Map was the winner, was going to be hyped going into the Breeders' Cup races. And then you mentioned graduates after being grade 1 place. You don't see that too often, especially from someone like Chad Brown, but took a swing. She certainly ran well. Irad Ortiz back aboard today. And now you have to think, after having that race at Keeneland and getting that win, second off could be dangerous.
Let's go to the final race on the Black-Eyed Susan Day. 5 furlongs on the turf. Maiden special weights, 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. I did go, and so did you, with the number 7 Pelagroso, who's cutting back to 5 furlongs today after setting the pace. Had that 2-length lead.
Jack Sisterson, I mean, this is a horse they've tried 3 surfaces with. Last came out, realized that the turf was the move, and just was denied by half a length in the end, was a price that day. Anything close to that race in terms of figures and kind of pace setup, I don't think they can catch this one.
Yeah, it looks real tough for me. But I did use the number 6 vote. The Maul Out is cutting back to 5 after making a middle move, finished 5th, going 5.5 in its debut at Laurel for Mike Trombetta. You're getting Victor Carrasco in the saddle. Maybe a horse you throw underneath.
Ran well on debut. I mean, I knew this horse, only beat 2 horses, only off of it, though, by 3 1/4. A 64 Beyer speed figure in that debut in the barn. About 12% with maiden second time out, but I think this one showed a bit of promise on debut.
And one other horse we'll touch on, the horse that you have in second, and that is Heaven's Got Fire.
Poor Heaven's Got Fire. It's going to be a career start, number 13. We'll find out if it's lucky. 5 second-place finishes and has a string of 3 in a row, all on the main track. Those last 2 being against maiden special weight competition. Has some early foot, but I don't think anywhere near as close as Pellegriso in terms of pace. But I think this one, a minor share. Maybe the surface change is what this one needs.
Well, that's how we see the 14 races. We're going to turn it over for the scratches, jockey changes, and both Ashley and I and the whole team will be back throughout the day trying to give you some useful updates. Good luck.